the ruler who killed 100,000 people, so that his tomb would not be open. When it comes to living a lavish lifestyle, few things beat having your very own personal city. And although we all guilty of daydreaming about what it would be like to rule our own little slice of heaven on earth at some point or another, but while Tutankhamun is often remembered as one of the greatest pharaohs of the 18th dynasty, he wasn't exactly the most powerful or influential ruler in Egyptian history, so everyone assumed that this was the final resting place of the boy king. It turned out that the other sarcophagi belonged to his advisors and family members. One of them held the body of his half-sister and wife, Anki, but it was her final resting place that would end up being cursed. They were fighting in Egypt at the time and were stationed in the town of Rosetta. When they came across the stone slab, using non-invasive technology, they were able to peer inside the coffin without opening it, and saw that there was a mummy inside. What they didn't expect to see was that the mummy was actually a wooden box containing a human mummy. During his reign, he introduced a new religion to the country and moved the capital to Amman. Then you need to hear about the man who killed 100,000 people, so that his tomb would be opened. And when he died, they would have loved nothing more than to ransack his tomb and steal his treasures. His tomb has never been opened and his treasures are still intact. Some people might think that it's crazy to kill 100,000 people just to protect your tomb, but in the world of ancient Egypt, it was common practice. The pharaohs were considered to be gods, and they believed that they needed to be protected from the evil forces that lurked in the afterlife. So they built massive tombs and filled them with traps and curses. Anyone who dared to disturb a pharaoh's tomb would be met with terrible consequences. And if you want to learn more about the curses that protected ancient Egyptian tombs, stay tuned for more information. To prevent that from happening, Ramesses II ordered that anyone who tried to open his tomb without his permission would be cursed. He even went so far as to have 100,000 people put to death, just to be sure that his tomb would stay safe. These people were mostly slaves and prisoners of war, but some were also members of the royal family. Ramesses II was paranoid, and he was convinced that everyone was out to get him. He had many of his wives and children put to death, just to be on the safe side. He even had his favorite son Khemwaset put to death, because he was afraid that the boy would try to steal his crown. When Ramesses II came to power, he was only 14 years old. He ruled for 66 years and built many monuments and temples during his reign, but he is perhaps best known for his massive tomb, which is filled with treasures and artifacts. The tomb of Ramses II is one of the most visited places in Egypt, and it's easy to see why. It's a fascinating look into the life and death of one of the most powerful pharaohs in history, but it almost didn't happen. Akhenaten is often remembered as a controversial figure, but his legacy is undeniable. The Egyptians had a lot of respect for their leaders, and when they died, they believed that they would become gods themselves. That meant that the pharaoh's tombs had to be elaborate and impressive, fit for a king. The most famous example is the tomb of Tutankhamun, which was discovered in 1922. It was filled with treasures and artifacts from the time period, and it gave us a glimpse into the life and death of one of the most famous pharaohs. But as you may have heard, the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb was cursed, and many of the people involved in the discovery died mysteriously. Some say it's because they disturbed the mummy of Ankhesenamun, Tutankhamun's wife, but that wasn't the only surprise. They also found that the sarcophagus had been sealed with the intention of keeping it unopened until the end of time. Researchers believe that this was done either by an ancient curse or by someone who wanted to ensure that the mummy would not be disturbed. Whatever the reason, this is one tomb that will likely remain undisturbed for centuries to come. At first, no one knew what to do with the artifact, but eventually it was shipped back to France, where it was presented to the First Institute of France. It was hoped that the institute would be able to decipher the writing on the stone, but this proved to be difficult. Finally, in 1822, a French scholar named Jean Champollion was able to crack the code, and the world was given access to centuries' worth of previously unknown information about ancient Egypt. The Rosetta Stone is now housed in the British Museum, where it continues to fascinate visitors from around the world. When Howard Carter opened the sarcophagus, he found that it was filled with dirt and stones instead of a mummy, so he decided to leave it unopened and moved on to investigate the rest of the tomb. That's why I was so excited to learn about Brilliant's new course, Forensics, Death, and the Law, which takes you through the world of forensic science to help you solve realistic mysteries. The course is taught by a former police officer and forensic scientist who will guide you through real case studies and teach you how to analyze evidence, identify suspects, and solve crimes. I'm only a few lessons in, but I've already learned so much about forensic science, from how to collect and analyze evidence to how to interview witnesses and interrogate suspects. And the best part is that you don't need any prior knowledge to get started. Just open the app and start learning. Brilliant has courses on a wide range of topics in science, computer science and math, so there's something for everyone. Plus, they're constantly adding new courses, so you'll always find something new to learn. And now with Brilliant's annual subscription, you can save 20% off the annual membership price and get unlimited access to all of Brilliant's courses and new ones as they re-release. So if you want to learn more about forensics or brush up on your math skills, head to the link in the description below to sign up. Now, you know that I love a good mystery, but nothing is more mysterious than the human body. And that's why I'm so excited to tell you about Brilliant's new course, Human Anatomy and Physiology. This course will take you through the basics of the human body, from cells to organs to systems, and will teach you how everything works together to keep us alive and functioning. Whether you're interested in medicine, biology, or just want to learn more about the amazing machine that is the human body, this course is for you. So what are you waiting for? Head to the link in the description below to sign up and start learning today. He had no idea that it was sealed for a reason. A year later, one of Carter's colleagues, Lord Carter, suffered from a mosquito bite that turned into a serious infection and eventually killed him. Then, shortly after, Carter himself became gravely ill. As he lay dying, he begged his assistant to keep secret the fact that he had disturbed Anchor Cinnamon's sarcophagus. With that last request, the rumors of the mummy's curse were born, and some believed that the spirit of Anchor was furious over having been disturbed and took her revenge on Carter and his team. In fact, he came to power when he was just a child, and he died at age 19, possibly from malaria or a broken leg. From the Great Pyramid of Giza to the Sphinx, many of Egypt's ancient structures are still standing strong thousands of years later, and the country is still considered to be the home of some of the world's oldest and most important artifacts. But it hasn't always been smooth sailing for Egypt. Over the course of its long history, the country has been invaded, pillaged, and torn apart countless times, and many of its treasures have been lost forever. Even today, many artifacts are sitting in museums around the world, far away from their homeland. But perhaps none are more important than the Rosetta Stone, which helped scholars decipher hieroglyphics and open up a whole new way of understanding ancient Egypt. So why is everyone so fascinated by him? Well, it might have something to do with the curse of the mummy. Thanks to stories like The Mummy and the Brendan Fraser movie series, mummies are often portrayed as being cursed and bringing bad luck to anyone who dares disturb them. And this reputation was only bolstered when several members of Howard Carter's team fell ill or died soon after the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb. Although it turned out that these deaths could likely be attributed to normal causes, the rumors of the mummy's curse persisted, and that because there was one member of Carter's team who did make it out alive. Most of us will never come anywhere close to actually pulling it off. Sure, if you're rich enough to buy an entire island and turn it into your own private playground, that's basically the same thing. Well, when you think about it, not really. After all, even if no one else is allowed on your island, you still have to share it with all those pesky plants and animals that were already living there before you arrived. And let's be honest, who wants to share their luxurious vacation home with a bunch of pesky monkeys and well, apparently that was a sore point for one particular Egyptian ruler, whose solution to the problem was so extreme that even he didn't live to see it completed. This is the story of the ruler who killed 100,000 people, so that his tomb would not be opened. King Tutankhamun, also known as King Tut, is probably one of the most famous rulers in ancient history, thanks to the discovery of his remarkably preserved tomb in the Valley of the Kings in 1920. When they discovered Tutankhamun's tomb, it contained several however, only one was decorated with the royal seal. Ancient Egypt was undoubtedly one of the most fascinating civilizations in history, and its influence can still be seen today. The Rosetta Stone was discovered in 1799 by French soldiers who were working under Napoleon Bonaparte. In 2017, a team of researchers made a shocking discovery. If you're like me, then you love a good mystery, and there's nothing more intriguing than a mysterious death. Akhenaten, King Tut's father, was one of the most powerful and influential rulers in ancient Egyptian history. But if you want to hear about a ruler who went to even greater lengths to protect his tomb, you see, Ramesses II had a lot of enemies. So when Ramesses II died, he left behind a legacy of fear and death. But it worked.